Unless you're traversing a haunted house or literally getting a colonoscopy, surprises are usually seen as good things. They shatter the dreary normalcy of modern life, inject a bit of excitement into your days, and otherwise just make things good. WWE are, of course, no strangers to the odd shock, although their track record of making them good is, well, it's not perfect, is it? They sort of tend to go, surprise! What's wrong? Look, it's Jinder. Why are you crying? One way or another, though, there are going to be some of these at WrestleMania, because there always is. Last year, we had Nicholas winning the tag titles and Nakamura hitting Styles in the cock, and the year before was the Hardy Boys returning and Lesnar vs Goldberg actually being good. So what's in store this time? Well, I'll tell you, sort of, because we don't obviously actually know. These just could happen. My name is Adam Cleary, and these are 10 shocks WWE could pull at WrestleMania 35. Number 10, The New Day screw Kofi. Okay, so I'm just gonna get this one out of the way very early on because it's almost definitely not going to happen, but at the back of my mind, something is gnawing away that it could. WWE have, in spite of themselves, built Kofi into the perfect babyface champion to come out of WrestleMania. They started by teasing us as a potential contender, even though we thought they would never actually follow through with it, and then they have put landmark after roadblock after hurdle in front of them to make us think they never will. Thus, one of two things is going to happen here. Either he will win the championship and we'll all be so happy they actually did it, or they have the potential for the kind of heat that only comes round once in a generation. Daniel Bryan is already a heel, so there's no point getting that heat on him, but in Big E and Xavier Woods, they could give SmackDown two of the biggest dickheads it's ever seen. And all they've got to do that is have them cost Kofi. Number 9, Trish and Lita. From pretty much the exact moment the belts were unveiled, there's been talk of Lita and Trish being in the hunt for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Their performance together at Evolution showed that while age and retirement might have slowed them down, they still had more than enough to function as a duo. Their names aren't currently down for the Fatal 4-Way Tag match, but given the success WWE has had in the past by adding the Hardy Boys to a similar match at WrestleMania 33, it could be a no-brainer. Just like in 2017, you have our host, this time Alexa Bliss, interrupt the start, announce a new opponent, and let the crowd do the rest. While 5 teams in one match might be a little bit too much to get a cohesive match together, you could even have Lita and Trish flat out replace one of the teams already in. Not the champions, obviously, nor the Iconics, double obviously, but there probably wouldn't be too many complaints from those in attendance for Nia and Tamina being switched out. Number 8, a musical interlude. They do this, don't they? Because WrestleManias apparently aren't long enough already, they like to throw some sort of musical interlude into the middle of the show to really kick things up a notch. And by kick things up a notch, I of course mean take a really long piss and grab a hot dog. So far, there are no official musical guests unveiled for the show, and the now typical big WrestleMania official theme tune isn't really a thing this year. Work, it's called, and it's not really all that good or even obviously attributed to any particular artist. Thus, if we're getting one, expect it to be Elias. Now yes, I'll admit that's not exactly a shock as they have already unveiled him, but expect him to get interrupted by the Honky Tonk Man. He's entering the Hall of Fame this year, and he did stuff with the guitar as well, and yes, look, it's not a great pitch, but it's exactly the sort of thing they do. Number 7, Dominic. Maybe stretching the definition of the word surprise here, as A, we already know he's going to be at ringside, and B, this is wrestling we're talking about. Just on the off chance you're new to this whole angle, Dominic is a child that Rey Mysterio won in a ladder match from Eddie Guerrero. And ever since, he's raised him as if he were his own son. For everyone who accuses WWE of shying away from long-term storytelling, how do you explain that? Anyway, he'll be at ringside during the United States title match at WrestleMania, and that means there are all sorts of opportunities to spring a shock. He could help his air quotes father win, or he could cost him, revealing that he was actually Samoa Joe's offspring this whole time. Number 6, Triple H actually retires. This would be a surprise. When you actually stop and consider the implications of it, this would really be a surprise. First of all, yes, Triple H does turn 50 later this year, and yes, Triple H has a full-time job as WWE's Executive Vice President of Talent, Live Events, and Creative, and yes, you'd assume they'd be putting Batista over, but seriously? Retiring from in-ring wrestling forever? In an era when WWE is being offered millions and millions by various nations to put on special attraction events that feature one-off banter matches between the biggest names still available to them? In an era when Triple H's 2018 matches will have netted him a huge personal payday across WrestleMania, Australia, and 2 Saudi Arabia shows? Despite what you may think about some of those matches, Triple H is still a perfectly capable worker who draws money. To hang it all up at 49 would be leaving literally millions of dollars on the table. Number 5, Colin Jost wins the Andre. I don't really know what it is that they're doing here. I honestly don't. Colin Jost and Michael Che are, if you're not familiar, 2 American stand-up comedians, actors, and writers who are best known for their appearances on the long-running NBC variety show Saturday Night Live. At the time of me writing and subsequently recording this, they are currently 2/3 of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. It does look like our worst fears about Braun's booking direction have been confirmed, and far from him having a WrestleMania match worthy of his talents, he's once again going to fill the banter spot. Last year he was putting over a child, this year he's putting over the SNL guys. In the same way that Rob Gronkowski's appearance in the match at WrestleMania 35 generated huge mainstream media interest, WWE will see these two as buzzworthy inclusions. But while, I'm just going to call him Gronk, was never actually in the match, these two are, and the biggest possible headline grabber would see them win it. Number 4, Cena challenges Angle. Now, I'm not usually a betting man, but if you see me in New York on the Monday after WrestleMania and the Kurt Angle match was just a straightforward one-on-one against Corbin, I will personally run to a shop and buy you a random piece of tourist tat. Go and find the article where I've written this down, print it off, carry it in your wallet because my word is my vow. It's almost like WWE is trying to tease us a bit with this. Nobody wants this to be Angle's last match, least of all now they're actively parading all the better candidates in front of us on TV. Gable was great last week, Joe was great this, and Corbin already can't live up to any of that. But, this is actually a good angle if there's a suitable payoff to it. Specifically, that after squashing Big Bazza Kazza, John Cena comes marching down the ramp to give him the send-off he deserves, at once recreating the dawn of his own debut and sending Kurt off to the sunset for his. Number 3, The Undertaker. Look, don't ask me to actually flesh this one out for you because even I, with my superior brain that make me do word good, don't quite know how you can shoehorn The Undertaker into WrestleMania at this late stage. But still, there's every chance that they might. Latest reports, although we are going back a few weeks now, seem to suggest that WWE were still hoping to get the dead man involved in the show in some capacity. There's been speculation he'd interrupt someone else's segment, throw together a last-minute match, or otherwise just be there. Given how late they've left it though, it would definitely qualify as a surprise and arguably one of the biggest in the show's history. Last year he was a dead cert to work Cena, the year before Reigns had called him out, and 12 months prior to that, Vince had called him his bitch. This year though, so far, nada. Number 2, Charlotte, Becky and Ronda don't headline. Now, before I start here, I'm just going to caveat this by pointing out that WWE themselves have said very publicly that the women will be main eventing WrestleMania. However, what people don't seem to be keeping in mind is how fluid their definition of the main event is. Okay, let's just take CM Punk recounting the day he quit WWE. So Hunter turns to me and he says, "You know, Punk, you were in the best match at WrestleMania last year, and that was the main event." And I was like, I'm not fucking stupid. The main event is the last match. You can push it to people who buy the pay-per-view that there's 4 main events, but there's one main event. There's always been one main event, and I deserved it. My really bad impressions aside, the takeaway here is that WWE's definition of the main event is not the same as what you or I or CM Punk would class as the main event. In every probability, they probably feel like WrestleMania currently has at least 3 of them. Rollins Lesnar, Triple H Batista, and Ronda Lynch Flair. As it stands, they've not yet said anything about the women going on last. Number 1, Seth Rollins wins. Man in championship match at WrestleMania actually wins championship might not be the sort of subheading that's going to rock you to your very core. But all things considered, it could arguably be the biggest shock of all. Let's review. Seth Rollins is mostly in this match because of Roman Reigns' health problems last year. WWE would have likely continued the big dog's relentless push, and in all probability, he'd have been headlining his 5th consecutive WrestleMania. But instead, they've committed to Rollins in the meantime, and while doing so, managed to get their first choice back. This puts them in a weird position because WrestleMania is not where you crown a transitional champion. It's meant to be the culmination to either a long story or a personal journey, and it's hard to argue that Seth's really on either at the moment. Thus, it makes sense that Vince will take one look at the situation and decide to just wait until he can get Roman to finally slay the beast. But, what if he didn't? What if, in spite of all the conventional logic we've heard about how they book things and how they view the performers, they decide to just pull the trigger on one man who deserves it, for no other reason than because he does? Now that, plus Becky plus Kofi, would give us 3 huge feel-good title changes all on the same show. It would be entirely out of keeping with what WWE normally does, but show me anybody who would complain. So there you have it, those are 10 huge shocks WWE could pull at WrestleMania 35. Let us know which ones you like and which ones you don't in the comments below, as well as any of your own. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. In the meantime though, thank you so much for watching. Have, of course, been Adam Cleary, and I'll see you soon.